All right, hello and welcome. I just went and cut that off. I apologize for the timer looping. I got a really important phone call right as it was at like 30 seconds, and I had to take that and refresh the timer. But hello and welcome to another stream that I'm going to make sure the audio is working for so we can say adios to bad audio. And what is this, like week 4 in a row of there being a stream? That's pretty cool. Let me see. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure that everything was working. Yeah, just another impromptu stream. Now I've been trying more consciously to carve out time on like Tuesdays or Wednesdays, maybe in the morning my time to do a stream, and that happened today. So that's what we're doing. Appreciate it very, very much. Awesome to see Bicky here, Gross Adventures, Mr. Camera Junkie, Tech for Your Needs, Toby Tutorials. I love that name, by the way. You weren't going crazy about the timer. And Tony's here, says it sounds great. Spoiling us. I don't know if it's a thing. That's why I don't like schedule these in advance, because it really is like, But I got like so much work and so much stuff done yesterday that today ended up being a bit more of a free day. And free days are great because there's plenty of time. Josh is here. What's up, Josh? Speaking of weekly live streams. Oh, look, a little glitchy. What is going on there? I don't know if that's weird. My Ecamm is looking quite glitchy. Is it only when a thing is on screen? If I take it off. Oh, I have not had this issue before. Interesting. I don't know if you're seeing that on your end, but that is weird on my end. Interesting. What if I go to... Wait, what's this? This is the same... No, it's still... I go to my FaceTime camera. FaceTime camera is not glitchy at all, but Camlink is. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to FaceTime, unplug the old Camlink, plug it back in, because sometimes that's the best troubleshooting in the world. And hey, okay, maybe that fixed the problem then. Cool, whatever. Now it should be good. Maybe my computer, maybe I like did too much at once or something, but I think it's looking better now. Anyway, appreciate all the cool comments and all the things here. And I'm glad to know that what I was seeing was also what you're seeing. So that way we can see the accurate thing. And now, looks like we got no drop frames happening right now. We can drop the base, but we don't want to drop the frames. That was weird. So if it happens again, we'll just unplug the cam link. All right. So, Rant Podcast said Ecamm was playing it for you earlier. I think I might have updated Ecamm since last time I used it. So maybe there's an update thing and I hadn't used it yet. But I did do a test recording before. I've learned my lesson on the test recording thing. So anyway, all that aside, tech troubleshooting aside, we're just here to kind of hang out today, talk about whatever we want to talk about, and that's pretty much it. I am running a bit of a different audio setup than I've been running in the past for the streams. So I kind of wanted to cover that because it's something we did talk about last week. If you were here on last week's stream, today I am using, you can see it right here, the Mackie DLZ Creator XS, because somebody asked, if you excessively love the XS, why don't you use it as much as like the Rodecaster Duo that's over there? And the reason I gave for that is because the Rodecaster has a face mount in the back of it. And so I can just put it on an arm. Oh, and check this out. You can still hear me over here probably. And then I can move it around, and I got all the flexibility over there, which is something I really want. And the DLZ Creator does not have that. So you'd have to get like a laptop stand or something. Basically, I'd have to get something in my workflow that I don't already have, and sometimes that's not super fun to do. So anyway, I really love the XS, and if you don't want it mounted on an arm and you don't mind it being just on your desk, it doesn't take up a lot of space. It's a really cool thing. Obviously, it's powering the SM7B right now, but as you heard, it's also it's also taking the Sennheiser EWDP. So I do have this little lavalier microphone on right here. I've got my receiver here because last week I was using the Rode Interview Pro connected to my Rodecaster Pro. Look at this. Look at it. All the things, all the show and tells. I was using this combo last week because this can connect directly to that. This cannot connect directly to the Mackie. I would have to connect it to the Wireless Pro receiver or Wireless Go receiver, and then basically do the same thing I'm doing now. But I just kind of figured if I'm going to have a receiver going in The Sennheiser, the UHF system, it's higher quality, it's better. So I'd just rather use that one than the other one. So I have this because I really like the flexibility of not being tied to the microphone. Tried to EQ these so they don't sound horribly different. You have a lot of EQ options on the DLZs, which is really fun. Not that you don't have the same ones kind of on the Rodecaster, but I don't know if you can see, this has like a giant display on it, and it's really, the way that like each of these knobs becomes a way to interact with it. The user interface on this kicks butt, and see, I don't even need this microphone there. And then it works really well. And then I could bring the mic back, switch back over, and now be on the SM7B. So hopefully that's not too jarring. Maybe I could quickly check some audio. Okay. That sounds good. Oh yeah, okay. You can definitely hear the difference between something like an SM7B and a lavalier microphone. But anyway, that's what I'm using today, which is what I said I was going to use last week, plus a little bit extra. And I always like using the SM7B for testing out interfaces because it's such a gain-hungry microphone. I do have a noise gate on, so when I'm talking, you might be able to hear a little noise that like comes and goes, but hopefully not. There's what, like 81 decibels of gain in here. It's a lot of gain. Gained a lot of gain. Camera's still going smooth because I see TechMixer said camera glitches and Bluetooth keyboard disconnects at the same time. Yeah, there was obviously like whatever server our simulation is running on must have run out of RAM or something. Flub-de-doo. That's just a great name. Catch you live. Love your content despite the deadly puns. I'm glad you're not punished. Thank you, though. Unquestionable TV. You have a question, yet you're unquestionable. Recently got the Rodecaster Pro 2, but it came with a note saying that it was a Type B unit and even came with a little rubber piece for what I believe is cable management. Type B? Interesting. I have not heard about that. The rubber thingy, they do, so, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my Rodecaster. Let me switch over to the microphone that I don't have to be by. The Type B thing, I don't know. Mine is one, it's one of the earliest ones. So it is a pre-release one, actually. It's about as early as they come. Now, I do know that there did seem to be a batch like maybe 6 months into production. This came out in June of 2022, so exactly 2 years ago. And maybe 6 months into it, it seemed like there was a batch that had like, what I saw, a lot of people sent me videos is like their smart pads were just triggering on their own, and it was like really weird. I've never had any issues with mine. Mine has been great the whole time, the whole 2 years. It seemed like there was like a 6 month period, or sorry, a few month period, 6 months in, where like a bunch of people are having the same problem, and I haven't heard of that problem anymore in the whole time since. So I think that has been resolved. I wonder what they changed though in a Type B thing. The rubber thing, I'm guessing there's this little Kensington lock right here, and I don't have the power supply, but some of the power supplies, I think all of them, have this little rubber thing so you can plug the USB thing in there, and then you put the little rubber power thing in there and twist it, and it kind of locks it in. So that way it's harder to unplug the USB thing, which is cool. It's still not perfect though, and I've talked about this a lot in my reviews because this is just a USB-C power supply, so it just unplugs like any USB cable can. And even when you have that in there, what that means is if the cord gets pulled, this is going to prevent it. Whoa. This is going to prevent it from pulling out the USB thing, but you still have this little bit that goes from the port to the lock, and that can still become disconnected. So that's a thing. And I have talked about this many times before. The DLZ is a good example because it just has a locking barrel connector. So I can pull on this power cable and it will not disconnect the DLZ. So I wish that was on there, because the other thing which I've talked about, the Rodecasters have this mushy power button, which a lot of people really dislike. But the reason that is the case is so you don't accidentally press it and turn everything off right in the middle. And you have to press it twice to turn off. So if you accidentally mushed the mushy power button once, that's one thing. Then you have to accidentally mush it again really hard a second time to turn off the device, which is like impossible. Whereas, this is where like nothing is perfect. The DLZ Creator just has an old school rocker switch as the power. which is great, super easy to turn on and off, but I could just flip that switch right now, the whole thing would shut down. Doesn't matter that I'm streaming, wouldn't matter if I'm recording, whole thing just off. And so I wish that had I wish everything had a barrel connector and like the double redundancy power switch. Anyway, what was the question? Let's go back to the SM7B over here. I'm going to skip through and just see what everyone's talking about, and then we'll jump into the questions. So if you do have a question, you can put Q: in front of it. You don't have to. It's not the law or anything. But if you do, it does make it a little bit easier for me to find it. This mic sounds better than the lav. Yeah, I mean, the SM7B should sound better than the lav, I would think. Let's see here. Setting expectations to stun. Far From Shore podcast. What mic do you suggest for low to no handling noise? SM7B, 100%. That's why I had the whole video where I made it like a wireless handheld mic, because it's kind of insane. Although, depending on what your needs are, the Rode Interview Pro, I have a video review of this coming out next week. This is really good at rejecting handling noise. You could hear it in the stream from last week, but I could like toss it back and forth. Barely picks up anything at all. So this is a really good one too. I was very, very impressed with that one. Let's see here. Tech Mixer has a 416 for A-roll. This thing is insane, although I wish about the 50 for its more forgiving pattern. I mean, they're both insane mics. They're both like really great. You can't go wrong either way. So the 416 is a beautiful microphone. This is a good question. Suggestions for decent speakers? No. I use the like, what are they called? At my old job, I had a couple sets of the Rocker. They're like the standard monitors that everyone has. They're like yellow. They have a yellow thingy, and they're, I don't know. I had those, and those were cool. And here, I basically just use headphones, because the speakers I have like a little small Bluetooth speaker in here that's just for listening to stuff. And I have like bookshelf edifier speakers that used to be in here, but I put them out in our kitchen because that's where I put my record player. And that's it. I don't know anything about speakers, so I'm like the worst guy, but I can actually help you out though. If you want help with speakers, one of my friends has a YouTube channel called New Record Day. And if you go check out Ron at New Record Day, he's like all about home audiophile setups and stuff like that. How do you feel about the Fibers potentially? Well, I'm very happy with where they're at. We were at the game last night. They won 6-2. That was beautiful and very exciting. And there's another game tomorrow. Let's see here. Just going to jump through. Oh, see, Mr. Camera Junkie had bad touch pads and RMA'd it. Version B has been flawless. So they must have designated like these are updated ones. I guess I've never used a version B, so I wouldn't know. Here's another one. Unquestionable had smart pad malfunctions. Oh, and this was the replacement. Interesting. That's cool though. I like it. If that upped the quality control. See that it sucks when there's a defect, but if the company takes care of it and then improves on it, I mean, what more could you ask for, right? Like that's it. Do you only have this hoodie? The reason I wore this one today is because I needed something to clip the lavalier microphone on, and I didn't want to wear a button-up shirt. So there we go. I'm seeing some questions that are funny. New Record Day. Yeah, Ron's awesome. He gave me a really nice, before I had my Rode headphones, which I like, he sent me a really nice pair of Mezzi 99 Neo headphones. Actually, I have them right here. He just sent them like at Christmas one year. These are such nice headphones, and I love them very, 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 very much. They're kind of more for listening rather than like producing, because you want like something that does not color the sound at all when you're like creating audio for, videos or podcasts or whatever, so you hear the most accurate version. These are pretty darn good at that, and they're so comfortable, but I think they kind of like improve the sound a little bit, and so you don't want to hear improved sound be like, my stuff sounds great, and then what everyone else hears isn't. I've even noticed the speakers on my MacBook, the 14-inch MacBook, they're so good that audio tends to sound better than it actually does on there. So even when I'm just referencing stuff and making sure things sound good, sometimes it won't include like noise or hiss or something, and I need to plug in headphones to make sure it sounds good. So anyway, there's that. All right, I'm going to jump into the questions. So if you got a question, you can put a Q:, and we're going to see what's happening here. Impressive Tony. Always impressed that you're here, Tony. How do you narrow down or choose what specific video to make next? I find myself having too many ideas and not enough time to tackle them all. Yes, that's the problem I have too. Too many ideas. I think there are people who are smart and they have like strategies and stuff, and they're like, oh, it's this time of year and this topic is trending, and like they have that. It's like the serial killer board of like threads going everywhere and being pinned everywhere to like figure out the perfect video. I do not have that. I think I have the same thing you have, which is a list of ideas, and I just kind of go through and like, which one am I most? It's sort of like which one am I most interested in, and which one am I able to create now? You know, if I have very limited time, like for example, I finally am going to be getting around to making a review on the Boss Gig Caster, which maybe I'll use this in my next stream whenever I do one. But this is a bigger video. This is a big thing to cover. It does a lot. It also has this whole musical side that none of the other devices have. So it's going to take more time to put that video together. Whereas like this week, I had a bunch of projects. I was a little more crunched for time. So a video I made this week was about how to move Final Cut Pro projects from one computer to another, because it seemed like something that would be helpful. It's a question I've gotten a lot, and it's something that didn't take as much time as this would to make. So that video will be out in a while. But yeah, so it's kind of like, what am I interested in? Here's my list of ideas. What sounds the most interesting and what's the most possible at any given time? Sometimes they happily line up with like, topics of conversation or trends or whatever. And sometimes there's new stuff, like, I don't know. I can't think of a thing, but like when the Rodecaster Pro 2 came out, that was something that like, yeah, I want to make videos about this like right as it's coming out because I'm super excited about it. People who are into the first one are really excited for a second one and that sort of thing. So I don't have a scientific thing. I'm sure my channel could be doing much better if maybe I thought about that stuff more, but I have a lot more fun doing it this way. So the video I have coming out tomorrow is about how to do mic'd up sports videos. It's not about anything else relevant to anything, but I've been making a lot of those lately, like where you can put a mic on a player, during like a hockey game or a football game or whatever, and you can film them and mic them up. So I made a video about how to do that and a couple different ways of doing it, and that's tomorrow's video. I'm actually super excited about that, so I hope you like it too. Tech Mixer, do you use any home assistant stuff to automate turning on your studio? Recently dipped in that wormhole of plugs and have my Amaranth stuff on there. I need to. I just have my little cheap Amazon remote. But I don't know if you watched Peter Lindgren's new studio tour, but he even gave me like a little FaceTime studio tour of it. And he just has like this iPad by the door and everything is just Philips Hue, like pew, pew, pew. And apparently the new Philips Hue lights don't flicker on video, which is awesome because the older ones did kind of introduce a flicker, which is not fun. But even just getting the smart plugs, where it's like I could just turn things on and off would be really nice. So there we go. Just Toronado says, hey, any suggestions for a decent speakers? Oh, forgot the cue. Sorry. I already ate the cue, even though there was no cue before I ate it. Ben says, I'm thinking about getting the Osmo Pocket 3 Creator Combo. Okay. The Creator Combo is the one that comes with the little mic transmitter, right? I have not used this, but in April, when Heather and I went to NAB, freaking everybody had that. That was like by far the most common thing. And a lot of people had brought like, their FX3 or their big camera bag or whatever. And by day 2 of NAB, all that stuff was in their hotel room and they just had the Osmo Pocket 3. And it seemed really cool. Like a bunch of people are showing me different stuff they were doing. The image quality is great. The features are super cool. And the Creator Combo that comes with a mic transmitter that just pairs directly to the camera itself, so you don't need a receiver or anything, is like super smart. I think it's like, I forget what the price is on that, a little bit pricey. It seems very worth it though. Like I'm sure, it's DJI, they release new products like every 3 days, so who knows when the Osmo Pocket 4 is coming out. But seriously, that thing is so impressive. And everybody I saw using it, at least at NAB, was using it in like less than ideal environments. So the fact that it performed well in those situations means that if you had a little more control over your environment, or, you weren't inside a convention hall and you're actually outside in the world, you probably get some amazing results. So I say if it's in your budget and it suits your needs, go for it because it's very, very cool. Trendy Boy, what would be your recommended setup, software and hardware, to record YouTube videos at a semi-professional level while minimizing post-production? Okay. I would use Ecamm Live, which is what I'm using right now to stream this, because you can set up your scenes, you can cut between them, and just record directly to, your computer's hard drive. This is what my wife does on her videos. She has not taken a memory card out of her camera in like 3 years or more. She just records everything directly to her Mac Mini, and she has different scenes set up in Ecamm. So even if she's doing like a screen share tutorial or whatever, she just switches over to that. Sometimes she doesn't even have to edit that during the editing process. She still has to edit because, sometimes you mess up a line or you need to redo something, or there's just an awkward pause, or you have to like set something up on a computer or whatever. She does a lot of like talking head explainer videos and tutorials and stuff. And she just does a lot of time prepping beforehand what she needs to share, or like sometimes she'll use Keynote for presentations and slides and stuff on there. She even does like chroma key backgrounds live on the fly in Ecamm. And then the editing is basically just tightening it all up and not having to add in like all the effects like I do. I definitely do the least efficient way. So I would base it around Ecamm. If you're on a super budget, you could probably do something very similar with OBS for free. But Ecamm, I just love Ecamm. It's a lot more user-friendly. And I mean, OBS is great and it's free. So it's magical. But it's also like, it's free. So you're dealing with bugs, you're dealing with things. It's also optimized for Mac OS and Windows. So it's in a certain way, it's not necessarily optimized for either because it's optimized for both. Whereas Ecamm is like you're a paid customer for a piece of software that's optimized for the Mac OS operating system. That's redundant to say. And I don't know, I just like that better. So anyway, I would base it around Ecamm. As far as your hardware goes, camera's good. The Sony ZV-E10 is my main recommendation because it's relatively affordable in the world of cameras. You do 4K video, super high quality, great autofocus. What more do you need, right? Just like that, that's all you need. And it's small and compact. It comes with a good lens, but you can then upgrade lenses down the line. If you have the money for like the Sigma 16mm f1.4, that's a great starter lens. And then audio, if you just want to do something simple, a good USB mic, something like the Sennheiser Profile or the Rode NT USB Plus, those are great USB. There's no shortage of awesome USB mics out there. Just plug them straight into your computer. Don't need an interface or a mix or anything, and you'll be all set up. Oh, you know what though? Actually, I don't know if this is exactly what you're asking. Let me see if I can do something fun here. Let's see. It's hard. I have everything on my MacBook display, which is not giant, so I don't know if I'll be able to do this properly. I should have a screen share. Hey, look at that. I do. I'm a little like weird in the corner of it. But what I wanted to show you here was, this is my website. You can go to himynameistom.com, and there is an equipment section or a gear section. There's one page that's what I use, and there's another page that's recommended setups. And so this is just subjectively what I would recommend for these different setups here. So you can kind of scroll down and see it all. But like a basic video setup, I try to include everything. Like here's like, one person podcast. I tried to include stuff like cables and memory cards and all those little peripherals that you don't necessarily think of. So I have my recommended setups for basic video, one person podcast, multi-person podcast, a video podcast, simple lighting, computer software recommendations, and even wireless multicam event streaming. Obviously, there's links here. Yes, they're affiliate links because why wouldn't they be? But I tried to put prices for each item and then total prices for each setup, which like there's some sticker shock here. Like video podcast is, you could spend infinite money on that. Whereas something like this 2 to 4 person audio podcast, 2 people, $1,300, 4 people, $3,400, because you're multiplying the cost of things. 1 person audio podcast, $280. Like I tried to be pretty clear on price so you could kind of find out what you wanted. So anyway, that's an option if you want some of my recommendations beyond what I can share here. So there we go. Let's see here. Lithuania, what's up? What's the best budget stream overlay software website for sports events? Lower thirds, timers, scoreboards. Okay. This is a great question. I'm going to go to my lavalier microphone as I walk over here behind the camera and grab something. You said budget. This is not budget friendly, but this is the YOLO Box Ultra. Maybe next time I stream, I should actually stream with this. because one of my favorite things about the YOLO box, which is you can stream directly from this. You don't need a computer or anything. It's almost like it has a type of Ecamm OBS built into it. You have 4 cameras connected to it, plus audio. You can stream directly from here, do comment overlays, graphic overlays. You can do replays, but it has built-in scoreboard functionality where you can change the score, you can add graphics, you can do all that stuff just from the touchscreen interface here. So this is my favorite thing. As someone who used to set up multicam things for like football games, basketball games, graduations, all that kind of stuff, and it was before this existed. Wish this had existed at the time. But you said budget. This is like $1,400. That's not very, for what it is, that's actually a decent price, but that's also not budget friendly. I think there are plugins and software and services that do this. I don't know what they are, but I'm really curious. So if anybody watching this knows what they are, let us know what you recommend for keeping sports scores and stuff like that. Spruce Lodge, am I losing it or is the FX3 moving? It is moving. I used to do this a lot. I used to have my camera on a slider during videos and streams. Haven't done it in a while. It's one of those things some people love, some people hate. But I put it on my shark slider just because, I don't know, I had the idea. It's like, always try to do something a little different. And today I was like, what if I did a wireless mic and a slider? So, you know, sometimes I couldn't decide, like, do I want to film in this corner of the room or do I want to film the other corner? Use the slider and do both. I tried to put it on a very slow cycle so it's not giving you like whip pan motion sickness, but hopefully it's okay. If it goes too fast, it becomes distracting. And there's this weird middle ground where it's like, it's slow, the movement isn't distracting, but then it causes motion sickness in a lot of people. So, you know, we're just checking it out. It's also, the camera's in a different spot every time I look up. So I'm trying to be aware of like where my camera is, which has been a little tricky sometimes. Let's see here. I see we got a super chat. I definitely want to acknowledge the kindness. Not that that's expected. I'm gonna switch over to the SM7B. The coach. Is there a Windows Ecamm equivalent that would be OBS? I mean, there are other ones, but honestly, if I had a PC, I would just stick with OBS because honestly, like, my argument in the past was always that Ecamm is so much more user-friendly. OBS is a lot more tinkery. It still is fiddly and tinkery, but it is also so much more powerful and so much more user-friendly than it has ever been before. And it does get updated so often. And because it's this, you know, free, long-time, well-trusted software, there's such a strong built-in user base that when you have issues or you have ideas or you want to find plugins or whatever, there's such a huge community of OBS users to lean on for that. So if I had a Windows computer, I would go with OBS. I'm sure there are other options too, but that's definitely what I would go with. Let's jump back into our queues for some A's. Okay. Let's see here. Rob, what's up, Rob? I connect my MacBook 14 to a CalDigit dock and have a hard time getting the Streamer X connected to the dock to acknowledge the SMA. The Streamer X, I'm sure that you're using the cable that came with it. Rode did not do a great job, at least in the version I have, which is the early one, of explaining just how important that cable is. The Streamer X needs the specific ultra high speed cable that it comes with in order to function. And if you're using a different USB cable, it's probably going to cause some issues. Also, running through a dock, even though you have a really high-end powered dock, I would see if you could run it directly to the computer instead. And that's, the Streamer X is very, very picky, and that's fine, but I don't think Rode did the best job communicating exactly what it needs. They really tried to make it seem like it's user-friendly, plug it in and go, and it's like, no, it's very specific, very, very specific. Are you planning to review more USB microphones? I don't have any currently, but, you know, there's always some. The next, I don't know if it counts as a USB microphone, but the next mic I'm interested in looking at is the MV7 Plus, just because it's so interesting, but it's also like $250, so we'll get there. Ever thought of replacing your background with a green screen, start virtual production? I'm not a huge green screen guy, unless you need, like, certain things call for it. Like I said, my wife, you know, she'll do a lot of screen share stuff, and she uses a green screen when she does that, so that way it's just her in the corner of the screen without, like, the whole unnecessary background. It's just her there on top of whatever she's talking about. It looks great. That stuff is really cool. For virtual production, it's just not something. I'm not CoffeeZilla, you know. I like tactile things. But that's just a preference thing. That's not like green screens are bad or anything. Earthly Descent, any suggestions for cheap studio video? Elgato Facecam, Cam and Vixia, but I'm only getting okay results. I always recommend the ZV-E10, which I talked about a minute ago, but I didn't mention why. And the reason why is that even though there are cheaper cameras out there, the ZV-E10, I believe, is $800 with a kit lens. And $800 is not no money, right? Like, it's not pocket change. So the problem is that there are cheaper cameras out there, but what you save in money, you end up paying double for in frustration. The ZV-E10 to me is like the lowest barrier to entry that eliminates those problems and actually gets out of the way and lets you do good work with it. Otherwise, sticking with things like the Facecam or whatever that are simple and work really well is kind of the way to go, or even a phone. Because there's like that $600 camera range where it's like currently I wouldn't really recommend anything in there because I would just save the money and use something cheaper like a webcam or your phone. Not that phones are cheaper often, but you probably already have a phone. Or save up and then spend more on the ZV-E10 or higher end model. Currently, that's what I always say. What is your take on the Hollyland Lark M2? Yes, I saw, speaking of the Lark, I saw Mark Bennett's review. Mark was having a lark with the Lark, and a bunch of people did the reviews on that, but I wanted to see his. I really think that's a cool one. Again, my problem with all of the small wireless things is that they have built-in non-replaceable batteries. The Lark, I think, could almost get more of a pass with that, although I don't know how well a watch battery would do. Maybe you could replace battery. Because the transmitters are so darn small, I'd almost give it a pass on the non-replaceable battery thing because I don't even know how that would work. Although the receiver could have a replaceable. Maybe it does even. I don't know. I think they sound great, and I think it's really smart to make them small because, let me go back over here to my lavalier microphone and just open my magical off-screen drawer here. The thing that I don't like, which a lot of people do, so a lot of these systems, they have transmitters like this, right? They're big, and then people clip them to themselves, and all you see is this. And this is big and distracting and ugly, and it's also heavy. So it's another reason, like, I always, even with a lavalier microphone like this, I don't clip it on just like the t-shirt that I'm wearing. I like to clip it on something else because I don't want the collar to be like worn down or the shirt to be weighed down. And these will do that oftentimes. Fortunately, the Rode Wireless Pro, something I love about it is it comes with another little case like this that's just filled with accessories, including 2 lavalier microphones. So you can do what I'm doing right now, have this in your pocket and then run a lavalier microphone, which is awesome and much less conspicuous. But I know a lot of people don't have time to do that or don't want to do that or whatever, maybe don't even know how to do that. And the cool thing with the Lark is the transmitter is so small. I don't really know how it could be any smaller. It's honestly as distracting or less distracting than this little microphone right here. And I think that's awesome. I think that's definitely the way to go with those things. And then, like I said, the built-in battery issue, which is what's nice about this. So here's my transmitter. This is a UHF transmitter for the Sennheiser. Both of these have replaceable batteries. I could even run this off USB-C also if I wanted to. But this, I can just swing it down, boom, got a replaceable battery in here. These are not expensive batteries. You can just have a bunch of them. And the battery, it's crazy. The battery life on this, I have 9.5 hours left. And I've already been going for, you know, however long the stream has been going. And if this dies, I could just put AA batteries in here instead. And those would probably give me like 3 hours or something of time. So that is awesome. And that's my like hill that I'm currently dying on is the built-in non-replaceable batteries on things. But anyway, to answer your question, I think the Lark M2 is very cool. And if you haven't seen it or you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out Mark Bennett's Camera Crisis channel where he did an awesome review on it, and Mark is fun. Jason says, love your stream, especially the one at NAB. Have you ever tried the Boss Gigcaster? I stream 24-hour internet radio and use the Zoom L8 and I'm getting antsy for something new. So the L8, you want to say later to the L8. Yeah, Gigcaster, I've used this for a long time, actually. This is one of those things, Boss did send me this, but when I make the video and I have to do the disclaimer of like, Boss sent it to me, but I'm under no obligation. I think it's been like a year whenever this came out. When was this released? You know what? Let's see. I'm gonna look up when this came out. When was the Boss Gigcaster released? April of 2023, so over a year. And I have not made a video about it yet. It's popped up in things. So very much not a sponsored thing. Also, the person who reached out to me from the company and sent it left the company like 2 months later. So we don't even have a contact there. But what I will say is I was using it for a long time, and I really, well, okay. I have a love-hate thing. My first half of the video is gonna be everything that's wrong with it because I think it's too expensive, the build quality is not great, the interface is terrible, and when it comes to just regular like podcasting stuff, it's average at best. It's fine. It's like completely fine. The DLZ is great. The Roadcasters are great. This is just fine, but it's the same price. Actually, the same price as the Rodecaster Pro 2. No, they should not be the same price. So, the thing about this, though, that none of these other devices anywhere do is when it comes to the music side of things. Not only can you connect instruments, which you can do to the others, but because this is Boss/Roland, they have decades of virtual instruments, virtual amp modeling, all that stuff, and it's all in here. And you can do incredible, so you can like do virtual pedal boards and things. It's actually what convinced me to end up, I don't know if I can, I think I showed this last time. I don't want to unplug it all, but this is the Line 6 Pod Go, which is like a virtual modeling thing. I loved this so much, but I was having, you know, it was a little restrictive being kind of on my desk as a mixer. I was like, oh, just get a floor thingy that does all this. So I loved it so much I bought something entirely different, I guess is my thing. Although you can get a foot switch for this. So anyway, the point of my video will be if you're doing streaming or podcasting, this is fine. And I mean, you know, to be fair, it actually does a nice job. The thing that only makes it fine is like the interface is so bad. It's so bad. And the way that you deal with this, like the DLZ has these knobs right here. You can kind of see at the bottom of my screen. Every screen I go into on this, these knobs change their function. So right now they're adjusting headphone and some volume, but as soon as I go into like channel settings, now they're doing trim, balance, panning, tilting. I can now they're adjusting frequency of EQ or the noise gate or whatever. Like they're totally contextual and they change all the time. They're so easy to use. Same with the Rodecaster, which you can't see on screen right now, but the Roadcasters have a big dial. Why don't I just use the one that's here? I know things. The Rodecaster has this dial, which is contextual. So, and it's a button too. So when you go through the interface, you can do this. The Gigcaster, and I would say this is something that could be changed in a firmware update, but they've really not updated it much since its release. It has these 4 dial knobs here, which are just for headphones, and that is it. Everything else is just this kind of like okay touch screen. And the reason that's a problem is because the interface is ugly, it's a bit confusing, and when it comes to modeling stuff like guitar, amps, or instruments or whatever, you have literally hundreds of options sometimes. The only way to go through them is like, just try to scroll through here instead of just twisting a knob or adjusting something, fine-tuning it. They really kind of missed the mark on that one. So those are all the things that are wrong with it. When it comes to the music side of things, if you're somebody who does just music production, or mainly music production, this absolutely blows everything else out of the water. And that's its saving grace. It's so good, and none of the other ones, all the other ones let you just plug in an instrument and get a clean signal. You can't model it, you can't really shape it or do anything with it. And if you want to run it through some software to add like effects or modeling to it and listen in real time, you kind of can't because there always ends up being latency, whereas this does not have that issue at all. So that's like the preview of my review basically. But the reason I didn't use mine was I had an issue on mine where the memory card, basically like the memory card port was dead. And it would go in and it would format the card and it would say that it was there. And anytime I tried to record something to it, it just never actually went to the card. So I had to send this in to be repaired. I haven't heard of anyone else having that issue. So I think that's just a fluke thing. that happened to me, and it took like 2 months before I got this back. So I kind of just recently got it back, and now I'm ready to dive into the video. So I wouldn't hold that defect against it because I've not heard of anyone else having that problem. And it was a pre-production unit or an early unit anyway, so maybe just something weird. But yeah, so anyway. So yeah, I've used the Gigcaster. The other thing about those though is sometimes they go on sale for really, really cheap. I think they're not selling super well and they are overpriced. I know like the end of last year on the holidays, they were like almost half price, maybe like a 40% off sale. Is crazy. Totally worth it. Like destroys everything else in the price range at that. So anyway, doing a lot of music stuff, instruments and things, that's the way to go. If you just need to do spoken word, if you just want to, have your SM7B, or you want to, mix and match, route different inputs and things, the DLZ Creator, the Rodecaster, that's definitely the way to go. I give long answers to questions. I'm sorry. Any suggestion for a webcam under 150? Under 150, I don't know of it. I don't know where the face cam is. I think the face cam's kind of like the way to go. And I know Elgato just came out with their, I think it's called the Neo or something. They came out with a new, more like starter level series of streaming stuff. And I think there's a webcam included with that. Otherwise, to be honest with you, most phones are able to be used as webcams now, like almost natively without very much fiddliness. I would kind of just stick to a phone because it's probably got a better camera in it anyway. Agent Shinron says, I've had my Rodecaster Duo and SM7B for a couple years and love it. Looking to declutter my desk. Willing to lose quality for simplicity. Onboard DSP. Okay, first off, declutter your desk. Consider the VESA arm. Look at my Rodecaster just floating over there. Maybe you don't need to do anything other than spend like $30 on an arm. But if you really want to like declutter things, my favorite USB mic, which I've said many times, is the Sennheiser Profile. It does not have built-in DSP, so you'd have to add that through software. But I love the quality of it. There's no handling noise on this sucker at all, and you have all the physical controls right here. So you sort of the opposite of what you're asking. You never have to go into the software, hardware, anything. If you're looking for if you really do want to dive into that and you already have the Rodecaster, then I would recommend the Rode NT USB Plus because it is a great sounding microphone. It does not have the physical controls, all the physical controls of the Sennheiser, but it does have Rode Central, which is basically just a virtual Rodecaster. And so you have kind of everything you've been used to on your Rodecaster in in Rode Central. So that would probably be like the least jarring way to go. So let's see here where we at. Keith did not have to super chat. Big fan. Favorite new product 2024. Oof. It's unfair because the Elgato prompter came out in late 2023. That would definitely get it for me. Favorite thing of 2024. I honestly haven't gotten much new stuff in 2024. I've kind of just been like reconfiguring things I already have. I do really like the Interview Pro for a microphone. I do really like the YOLOBox Ultra. I'm not sure if this was 23 or 24. I can tease and say that I don't think my favorite product of 2024 has been released yet. We'll see. We'll see if that holds up or not. Yeah. I'm going to jump through. I'm going to take a break from the questions for a second to kind of jump through and check on the other comments in the chat. But if you have a question, don't worry. You can Q:, we'll go there. Hey, Angel, what's up? Glad you're still following. Heck yeah. I hope you're doing good, Angel. I miss you. Angel's one of my former students. How would you record a trumpet? I mean, off the top of my head, I would use an SM57 because it doesn't need to be a crazy high gain microphone. But I also know there are those specific, I've never recorded a trumpet, so maybe don't listen to me. There are those specific microphones that clip onto the bell of the trumpet or the bell of a trombone or whatever. Maybe that's the way to go. But I've never used those. Charlotte's here. What's up? Glad you could join us. I appreciate everyone being here at my random times. Buddy's up to 13,000 on his video podcast setup and still going, just 8,500 bodies. It increases so fast that what I always try to tell people is like, if you have the budget and the plan and everything, cool, like get it all at once. But for the most part, like start small, start with what you have and upgrade as your needs become apparent. Because even the things I like, where I'm like, hey, I like this boom arm or this microphone or whatever, those are things that I have found that work for me in my setup and my preferences and all that stuff. It might not be the best choice for you. So when you build your own setup and you start developing your own workflow from scratch, what happens is your specific pain points and needs and all that stuff start to come to the surface. And then you can much more easily figure out exactly what you need to solve those. So, like I'm using a low profile boom arm right now. If you have a lot of stuff on your desk, these aren't that great because they get in the way and they bump stuff. So if you have a lot of stuff on your desk, maybe you would want a higher profile boom arm, or you'd want to figure out how to use a lavalier system or something. So, I guess the point is money is there's no limit to the amount of money you could spend on this stuff, but don't feel like you need to get everything all at once. Even all my stuff, which is a lot that I'm very fortunate to have just access to every day. It's many, many, many years of, like piecing together and acquiring equipment. It's not something that just happened right away. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Overlays Uno is a favorite for free overlays. I'm getting glitchy again. So I'm going to go back. I know it fixed it last time, was go to my FaceTime camera, unplug the cam link. This is what's weird, right? I haven't changed anything in my stream. It's been totally fine for the past like 3 or 4 weeks. And now suddenly today, for some reason, the cam link is randomly deciding to drop frames. Weird. Who knows? Dead Dads Club podcast. I don't know if this is what you're referring to, but I was talking to a friend. Oh, it was Father's Day this past weekend, and someone was like, something. These holidays are strange for someone who, if your parent passed away, and I had to tell him, like, yeah, I'm in the Dead Dad Club as well. Anyway, the DJI Pocket 3 allowed USB-C to HDMI transmission. Do you think the quality of the video would fare well with, say, an ATEM Mini Extreme? If you're okay with 1080, because the limit with the ATEMs is that they're 1080. So if you're not trying to do the full 4K, then yes, it should be fine. Let's see here. Charlotte's trying to figure out the mic situation. I have 2 mics, so I'm not sure. I know I'm a bit behind in the chat, and then I have the Sennheiser EWDP wireless system with one of their Omni mics here, which I really quite like a lot. OBS is hard to wrap your head around, but running away from it is even harder. Yeah, it is. Once you dial it in a bit, OBS is great. And they have like so much cool stuff now. Jonathan Ramsey was saying vMix on Windows in lieu of Ecamm. I've heard of vMix too. I've just never used it myself. So I didn't want to recommend something I haven't used. I'm going to just pick it through here. We're back where we're talking about the, was it the Streamer X? And hey, Gil is here. Gil is here again. Gil again. Sorry, that was so bad. Okay, I'm going to jump back into... What's up, Robotrix? Nice to see you here. Actually, I need a drink of water. So, here's the beauty. I can now move to the other mic and drink without you having to hear all that. I'm going to stick on the thing I really learned. See, whenever you do stuff, you learn a lot, right? Last week, I was using this just to kind of test it, and it was fun. And my actual plan was to put it on a stand so I didn't have to deal with it. But the combination of wireless mic and omnidirectional pickup pattern was like so easy to just not have to pay attention to mic technique that's why this week I didn't want to lose that flexibility. And I still wanted to have a wireless mic on. So I know the SM7B does sound objectively better, although they could probably sound even closer with someone who knew a bit more about audio EQ than I do. But it's just so nice to be able to like move around and not have to worry about it. It's cool. All right, we're gonna go down through here. Here we go. The Coach is back. Purchase Rodecaster Duo to do call-in shows with the Bluetooth function. What's the best app or service I could use to queue callers? Oh, you know what? That's a great question. I don't actually know. I've done people calling in, but I've never done like callers, like where you have a bunch of like one person as a guest. I don't know. I would love to know, again, if people have recommendations for that. If you're doing a call-in show and you essentially want to be able to queue people up and put them on hold, what is the best software for doing that? That's a good one. What's your wife's channel? It's youtube.com/HeatherJustCreate. You can go over there, and we do a live stream every Friday together over there called The Couples Table. Palumi, and also it's about hockey. I really love this. I really love this. Palumi says, have you ever had issues with the HDMI outputs on the ATEM Extreme completely giving out? No. I'm trying to think. When I was using the Extreme, my Extreme is just on the desk right over here, but when I was using it like every day, all the inputs, sometimes I would have weird things, like if I put my, I have the Hollyland Mars wireless system, which I really love. And also if you pair wireless video with something like a YOLO box, you get a really powerful mobile streaming setup. But sometimes I would have this, and it was like, I think it was HDMI 2 did not like these for some reason, but the other HDMIs were fine. So I've had like things like that, but then I could plug another camera, a regular camera, non-wireless thing into HDMI 2, and it was fine. So I don't know. Nav says, in the process of shopping between Rodecaster Pro 2 and the Duo, your pick on the spot, go. Well, if you only need 1 to 2 mics, get the Duo. If you need more than 2 mics, get the Pro. Because internally, they are exactly the same. So you're not missing out on any EQ, any processing, any features. It's just you need 2 microphones or 4 microphones. That's it. The Duo, the form factor, the size of the Duo is so great. So if you only need 1 or 2, and the price is better, that's the way to go. Any tips or recommendations when your studio space is very shallow, meaning the back wall is only about 3 feet behind me and the camera's 3 feet in front, basically a big storage closet? Yeah, that can be tricky for sure, because what you typically want to do, like my back wall, how far is this? I would say that's 6 feet, 2 meters behind me, which, okay, so from me to this wall is pretty much your entire space then, which means you would be like in the middle, just about this far away from the wall. You're not gonna, oh, hey, I still have my audio. You're not gonna get a ton of background separation when you're that close. So if you wanna do the thing, you know, like right now, my background is blurring out because I'm using an f1.4 lens. You might be able to get a little bit if you use a wide lens like this 24mm 1.4, or if you're on a crop sensor camera, something like a 16 1.4. But it might be a little tricky. What I would say is focusing on your lighting is probably the way to go, because the thing that happens so much when you're closer to a backdrop is you have your light on and then it casts harsh shadows and it really makes it look like you have been pushed up against the wall, and that is never pleasant. So however you're arranging your lights, if possible in your situation, putting lights like on the ceiling, getting them off the floor, saving some space might be really helpful. But wherever you're positioning your lights, try to use soft boxes and things that aren't going to cause harsh shadows on the background. And if possible, try to do, this is pretty intense right here, but try to do something where maybe you have, if you've ever worked with a green screen, when you set up a green screen, you're doing 2 lighting setups. You're lighting the screen and you're lighting the subject. So the screen, you put lights on it and you're trying to keep it nice and even and bright, right? So it's bright green, bright blue, whatever. And then your subject is in front of that and you're lighting them for whatever kind of lighting. If you want dramatic lighting, high key lighting, you're lighting these 2 separate things. Even though you're in a very tiny space, it's almost the same thing. Boy, you have your light, and then if you can put light on your backdrop, that's going to reduce the chance of weird shadows making it look like a very cramped space. And that's probably going to help a lot. If at all possible, depending on how wide things are, if you can shoot more at an angle or in a corner, it might help you get a little bit of depth and a little bit of like, even just the corner, like being able to see, you know, kind of like here, we have the edge of the wall here. It just sort of adds a little more dimension. Might not be possible in a space that size, but that's what I would say, I guess. Kim Nig says, on a dual PC setup, do you know how an audio interface hardware will allow you to send and receive separate audio tracks? I don't think they make them anymore. I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is where the Go XLR really excelled, was because it let you kind of like it had all these different channels that let you split things in. The Roadcasters, the Duo and the Pro, can show up as 3 separate. If you plug both USBs into the same computer, they will show up as 3 separate inputs that can all be routed individually. So if you only need 3 things, that's the way to go. Otherwise, you might have to get creative using something like Loopback or a similar application on your computer where you can create virtual audio channels. So what Loopback does is do I still have Loopback installed on here? I do. Oh, never mind. I need a bunch of updates because I haven't used it in a while. But what Loopback does is basically it lets you take any audio source on your computer. So you could take your Discord, you could take whatever. You can mush a bunch of stuff together, and then you can create a virtual channel so it will show up as an option in your streaming software, OBS, Ecamm, whatever. So maybe getting creative with that, along with the multiple USB options that something like a Roadcaster has, could work. Otherwise, maybe exploring the world of Go XLR, if they're still available, might be a thing to go. Have you ever used anything Linux for AV production? I have not. Haven't. When I first learned to edit, it was just VHS tapes to VCRs. My first job was at a TV station, and we were using beta, so it's still like beta tape to beta tape. And then you beta believe. This was in 2001, 2002. We started getting like the earliest Avid systems. I think it was like, what's it? It was like Avid, like Newsroom. I don't know what it was. It's some kind of Avid thing. I don't know what computers those are running on. I feel like it was Windows, but it might have been something weird. It was a long time ago. But otherwise, no, I have not. Error says, recently got same camera rig mount set up you have. Thank you. The investment is worth it. Really glad that was working for you. I grew 40,000 subs since, geesh, that is huge. Congrats. Do you think I should get a Cobb light and ditch the Elgato lights? Congrats on your like massive success. Obviously it's because of the camera. Definitely not the talent or the skill or the person in front of the camera at all. If the Elgato lights are working for you and you like them, no, there's no need. There's sometimes this feeling of like, I should, right? Like I should be using a better camera. I should be using more professional lights. Sometimes maybe you should, but I have developed this thing, both my wife and I, especially over the past year or so, have developed this thing where anytime somebody says you should, it really like sets off a red flag, and it becomes like hyper analyzed, like, should I, or is this something someone's telling me to do something that's not right for me, or, you know, like, what do I actually want to do? Should I do this or should I not? So if there's something you don't like about your Elgato lights, they're not bright enough, they're too harsh, you can't position them where you want to, then yeah, getting another light, especially with like a modifier like a softbox or something, could make a huge difference. But if you're happy with your Elgato lights and the setup's working great for you, and you're just kind of feeling like, well, you know, everybody else kind of has these big fancy lights, I should have big fancy lights. You probably don't have to have the big fancy lights. You're probably totally fine with your Elgato lights. So it's up to you. If they're meeting your needs, no need to change it. If they're not meeting your needs, totally worth exploring. So many other options. It's crazy, like the lighting options that exist now. It's really nice. Joe says, love the channel. Thank you. What streaming board do you consider the most future-proof? Have a Rodecaster Pro 2 arriving today, but the Mackie is competing well. Nobody outperforms Rode in terms of firmware updates. I can't tell you how long, you know, they're going to keep updating their stuff. But the original Rodecaster, the one here, in, you know, the several years that it was their main thing, it got like a dozen major firmware updates. The device that's right here is not the same as it was when I took it out of the box when I first got it, when it was released. Like, it changed so much. And literally, I know it sounds like a sales gimmick, but the reason that Rode needed to come out with a second one was because this couldn't do anymore. This was designed as a podcast recorder, and then it was sort of adopted by the streaming community and tried to push to do all the stuff that it wasn't designed to do, and it didn't have the power inside to do all the things. And so they needed something. The Rodecaster Pro 2 and Duo are 16 times as powerful in terms of processing as the original Rodecaster. So even what they're doing now, I don't think is using the full capacity of what they're capable of. So I don't know what that means for the future, but Rode has the best track record of firmware updates and updating things. The Mackie, for a version 1 product is like shocking how good it is, and the user interface is just so nice. Not a ton of updates for this one. They've done a couple bigger ones. They've done really cool stuff on this one and the bigger DLZ with the Ethernet port to make it more like to incorporate NDI and stuff. So there've been one or two fairly decent updates in like the year and a half-ish that these have been out, or the big one at least has been out. The Gigcaster, not really anything, and the Zoom boards never never get updates. So and Tascam, I'm not sure about. So I would say Rode is the most future-proof road to go down. Coach has SM7B Rodecaster Duo and a massive AC unit in the room. The mic is remarkably sensitive. What seating can I use to cut out the background noise? I'm a novice. Yeah, so I don't know where you're located, but it's summertime where I'm at right now. AC is non-negotiable. I'm not turning that off and sweating. So the SM7B might be a little bit of a repeat of something we talked about last week. This is a cardioid pickup pattern, which basically what that means is if I take this off here, you have the mic's capsule, and it does not just like it's not just sensitive in the front. Cardioid kind of means it's sort of, it almost has like this sort of bubble around the front here, I guess is kind of the best way to do it. It's picking up things mostly in the front. Why don't I actually get in front of the microphone so you can hear me? Which is why I'm gonna put on my headphones too to make sure that my demo actually makes sense and it's not a dumb demo. So here I am on the SM7B. If I go off to the side, you're going to obviously hear my voice drop off, right? And if I go way to the side, this is where it drops off the most. I do have, some noise gates and stuff turned on, so it's kind of messing with that over here. But that means, it's picking up stuff mostly over here. A strange thing, though, is if I go, how can I do this? If I go behind the mic, I kind of start getting picked up again a little bit. The noise gate might be canceling that out pretty good, but a lot of microphones, especially cardioid microphones, I don't know why I'm standing that way. Cardioid microphones, they not only have their pickup, like, I don't know what you call it, globe pattern area in the front, but they also have a little thing that pops out in the back. And so what happens a lot of times is people point this at them. They're like, cool, my air conditioner, my fan is over there behind me. The microphone's pointing in the opposite direction. It shouldn't pick it up at all. When in reality, it's like the other most sensitive part of the microphone is being picked up there. It doesn't mean you can like, it's not an omnidirectional microphone where you can like flip it around and talk into the back of it or anything. It just means it is more sensitive to sounds that are happening behind it than on the side. So positioning the microphone where the side of the microphone is facing the thing that you want to reject the most is the best way to go. Same if you're, if someone's sitting right here instead of, crisscrossing two microphones where now they're picking up each other, if you can have them kind of at these 45-degree angles where each person is in the least sensitive pickup area of that microphone, that's the way to go. Every mic's a little bit different. The pickup patterns, the specific microphones, the build, the design, it's all a little bit different. That's specifically the SM7B, if you would believe it. So I'm going to turn that off here. Okay. Boop. I'm going to turn that down a little bit there. So hopefully that helps. This is an interesting one, though, because speaking of these things, people talk about Mackie and Rode bought Mackie, which is funny because I talked about that in a video. I talked about in the video review for this, where I was like, this thing's great, and it kind of sucks that Rode bought them because it seemed to be the biggest competitor, and now I don't know how much competition is going to be. Currently, it still seems, from the people I've talked to at both companies, it still seems like they're functioning relatively independently. Like, Mackie's doing what Mackie does, Rode does what Rode does. I guess down the line, if they needed to like dip into each other's resources and whatever, they'd be able to do that. But like Mackie's based in Seattle, Rode's based in Australia. They seem to be functioning currently still fairly independently. I did get some like clarification pushback when I talked about Rode bought Mackie, because it was Friedman Electronics is the one that bought it, which is Rode's parent company. They own several other companies. Yes, Rode is by far the big, like, Rode is, it's not even close, like, how far Rode is the biggest company of the ones that they own, or at least prior to Mackie, still, I guess. So, Rode did not directly buy Mackie, but it's like, they're the primary company of this group. So, yeah, I feel like this did. Anyway, all that being said, I'm curious that leans towards me still saying the Roadcasters are more future-proof, because I feel like if something happened and one device had to be chosen, they would choose their native son over this foreign one, unfortunately. But hopefully they're going to be able to be developed. A good example that popped up in previous discussions were things like guitars, because you have Fender and Squier, or even Fender and Gretsch. Fender and Squier almost make like two similar models, but something like Fender and Gretsch, like Fender owns Gretsch guitars. Gretsch makes totally different guitars. Some of them could overlap. You could argue that someone might decide to purchase a Gretsch guitar instead of a Fender guitar, and that's been fine. Tons of guitar companies do the same thing. So maybe it's that kind of situation. Like, they are sort of owned by the same company, but they're going to be allowed to do their own thing separately. And ultimately, does that company care if you buy their product A or product B? Because ultimately, it goes to the same place. So maybe it doesn't matter. I just hope that it continues. I really like, the Roadcasters out there. The DLZs were the first thing that really gave them a run for their money. And I don't want to see that stop, because I want to see that kind of competition is good for us as the customers. How would XSplit compete against Ecamm as Windows software against Mac? I don't know. But if anyone has used XSplit, I would explicitly like to hear your experience. Does your Go-To prompter or any Stream Decks you may use play nice with Thunderbolt hubs? Prompter, I always plug directly into the computer. But the Stream Deck and the Stream Deck pedal and all that stuff, they don't seem to care. I have those plugged into, sorry, I'm pointing down here, but there's a desk over here and it's under the desk. I have a non-powered, like a passive USB hub that most of that stuff's plugged into, and it's been fine. So those are much less picky than the prompter. The prompter needs a high-speed USB cable, much like the Streamer X, connected directly to a computer most of the time. Just because it's acting as a second display, it's also powering it, it's doing a lot. Robotrix, what's up? Any opinion on what's been happening with Adobe? Oh, that's a good question. If you don't know, if you didn't hear about this, basically Adobe updated their terms of service a week or two ago to essentially say, I forget the phrasing, so pardon me if it's not entirely correct, but it's basically like, oh, we'll use your content to train our AI models, which doesn't really work, not only because you might not want your stuff to train an AI model, but because of tons of confidentiality things. Like Photoshop's not just used for making YouTube thumbnails. Medical offices use Adobe software all the time. Like, companies use it for confidential things. Stuff that I saw popping up were people who are like, hey, I'm in the middle of an NDA project that I'm working on in Adobe Premiere. If I don't accept these terms of service, I cannot use this software anymore. But if I accept them, like, is it breaking the NDA? Because now you just have access to all this. So Adobe software is very good. Adobe's like pricing, modeling, they suck so bad. They're so terrible. And I say this because when I was a high school teacher, I taught Final Cut Pro as my main editing software, but we also dipped into things, getting a phone call. We also dipped into things like Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, all that. And I was able to get it where every student in my program got their own license to Adobe Creative Cloud, the full suite of everything. So that way they could use it at home. They could use it, like, they could log into their own stuff. It even came with a little bit of cloud storage, which was very cool, because the school I worked for was like not in a like a wealthy neighborhood or anything. So it was like a really cool resource for students to have. And I ended up having 500 seats in Adobe Creative Cloud. And the reason we had to do that, actually, so originally it was like, hey, I'm going to put Adobe Creative Cloud on this computer in my computer lab. And then anyone who logs into this computer will be able to use that. Well, Adobe said, no, none of that. That's way too simple. Every user of the computer needs to have their own login. So that meant that then I had to become an Adobe systems administrator, which was so annoying, because also, like, their billing is a nightmare. I know it has nothing to do with the software, but their billing sucks. And it's like I would have to start the process of renewing our license like 5 months before it even expired to try to prevent a lapse in service. And then setting up hundreds of individual accounts for students in the program that also then would need to change. If a student left the school, joined the program, left the program, graduated every year, like, it was such a mess. It was like, the thing is, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say this, at a certain point, by the time I left, like 20% of my time at work was spent administering Adobe accounts, which is like not even my job. It's just so bad. So that like, if I could, like the software's so good, you know, like Photoshop is so good. Audition is like one of my favorite things ever. I've tried the other stuff like Affinity and it just never really clicked with me. I didn't have the affinity for it. My God, though. Adobe's subscription licensing, all that stuff, it's such a ripoff. It's so horribly done. If you have to be an Adobe systems administrator, it's terrible. Adobe kind of walked back their statement. I think they're trying to like figure it out, but they just like, they're so bad at like understanding their users. It blows my mind because it's like, you have a ton of users, you make great software. It shouldn't be much harder than that, I would think. Anyway, it's probably a can of worms. Obs, if you missed it, the pedal board is the Line 6 Pod Go, and it's great. It's so easy. You can dial in everything on the board itself, or you can, you know, connect it to an app and do it that way. But it's cool. I use it for guitar and bass. It's very hard to find boards like that that sound good on bass, and that one's amazing. Dreams, going back to what I was talking about for USB mics, I'll be using it mostly for Discord, recording games, and a bit of streaming. My two favorites are the Profile, if you want simple, and the Rode NT USB Plus, if you don't mind diving in to some software and not having all the physical control on the mic itself. Adam and Kathleen, Adam and Kate, sorry. When starting video production, content creation business, how much money would you put into an initial investment for equipment and subscriptions? As little as possible to get good results, which is vague, and that's, you know, there are some people that you can tell them like, oh, this camera costs $1,200, and they're like, their head will explode. And there are other people where you're like, this camera's $1,200, and like, okay, I guess we should only get like 4. Like, everybody's budget, everybody's perspective is so different. Think of the results that you want to get, the quality you want to hit, and then spend as little money as possible to get there is kind of it. And you know, thinking of clients too, like, and this is sort of a dumb thing, but like, sometimes you can get amazing results with a phone, but if a client hires you and show up with a phone, they're not going to feel, sometimes you need to show up with the bigger camera to make people feel like confident in your skills, which I know is stupid, but when people pay a bunch of money and someone shows up, they want to be like, that's a video production person right there. Like, they want to feel like they made the right choice, even though we know that the end result might not even matter depending on that. But yeah. Rick, what's up, Rick? I used to use my Rode VXLR Pro to connect lav mics, headset, and my mics and Rode video mic go to my interfaces. I don't hear much people about doing this. I have not heard about it. The Rode VXLR Pro. Rode had like a really cool lineup of more pro gear that kind of just got like a little bit discontinued and ignored. So maybe it's one of those things. Maybe that's why. Let's see here. Jim says, I'm hoping that Rode releases something like a supercharged Streamer X with multiple video audio inputs, kind of like the Ecamm Rodecaster. Oh, you know, I don't know if you're dreaming or not, but that is also my dream. Because I love the Ecamm and the Streamer X, even though the Streamer X, when it came out, was the most, it was announced with the Duo, the Streamer X, and what else was announced with it? The Wireless Pro, maybe? Wireless Go 2? Something else was announced with it. I don't remember what. I was most excited for the Streamer X, and I had so many issues with it that, like, I think it's fine now. It's gotten firmware updates. I think it's more reliable, but it kind of just, like, frustrated me so much. I should want to stream just with the Streamer X to, like, cleanse the palate, so to speak. But my hope with the Streamer X was that it is Rode dipping their toe into video, which is very different than audio. And from there, you can kind of go like, okay, maybe that means they're testing it out. Did they like doing that? Did they not like doing that? Did they want to do more of that? Because yeah, having, you know, something like this be both a Rodecaster and an Ecamm, that'd be ideal. If it's done right, it would have to be done right. Take Two is asking, can the RTX 350, 3050, 6 gig stream 4K 60? I don't know, but I want to put this up in case someone else does, because someone might know instead. Jay got the Sennheiser 416 and the UM2 interface. I know the interface isn't the best. What would you recommend as a step up? Well, I'm curious how the interface isn't meeting your needs, because the 416 is a condenser mic. So as long as you have phantom power turned on the interface, it should be giving you plenty of juice for the microphone and should be fine. And maybe throwing some EQ on the mic or something might be the way to go instead of getting a new interface. Badges for the Cross says, on average, how many different video clips do you end up using for your channel uploads? Basically, how much post-editing do you find yourself doing on average? A lot. I usually have 2 cameras going at the same time. So, 2 main talking head files. And then when it comes to like different B-roll shots, it depends on the video, but usually there's somewhere between like 80 and 150 different B-roll clips, kind of what it tends to be. And how many of those end up in the final one? Try to use all of them if I can to make the video interesting, but it depends on the video. So that's kind of that. This does sound like shameless self-promotion, but I do have a course called Rough Cut to Final Cut. You can go to learnfinalcutpro.com to find out more. It's my Final Cut Pro video editing course, where I walk you through one of my projects from start to finish. So you see the whole thing, every bit of it, exactly how it's used. And I chose the video that we go through in that course is what I would consider a typical video. So it's, some are like way simple and almost unedited, and others are like ridiculously complex. And I wanted to pick like, this is sort of an average. Like if you watched, most of my videos are probably kind of like this. And that shows everything there. Between less expensive, more reliable wireless and 32-bit float recordings, is it time to give up wired audio? That's a good question. I mean, yes and no. So like, I might have an example here actually. I'm gonna grab something. So I had a random power adapter before I started the stream. And even though I have plenty of battery life on my wireless EWDP right here, take my headphones, I was like, you know what? It'd be really nice to not have to worry about that. So I'm going to take my power supply and run this off of power. And you hear that? All right. So something I'm using is a weird power cable into a weird power adapter. So even though there's enough output, clearly something not great going on there, right? That's a weird situation. Turns out I didn't need it at all, so everything's fine. But when it comes to wireless audio, it's very possible to get all kinds of interference and stuff. And I talk about this a lot in my, this is a perfect question for next week's video that's all about the Rode Interview Pro. Because this is a wireless thing right here. I switched back to the SM7B. This is a wireless thing that has built-in 32-bit float. So in theory, I can be using this wirelessly. If I have any issues with my recording, just use the built-in amazing quality recording and it's fine. And that's true most of the time, unless you need to do something live. So like if this were live and I were further away, like I'm not right next to the camera, and if the signal drops out or gets interference, there's nothing I can do because I can't edit it because it's live. That built-in recording doesn't help if you're doing a lot of live stuff. So that's one thing to consider. And the other thing to consider is where you are using it. Are you going to be in an area that is prone to interference? Are you using 2.4 gigahertz or UHF wireless? UHF is significantly more reliable, but it's not impervious. Look at these vocabulary words to interference and stuff either. And so there's a lot to consider. Wireless inherently makes things more complicated. Then you're also dealing with batteries, chargers, whatever. I think it's a lot easier now to give up wired audio, but sometimes just plug in a good old, whatever, like 100-year-old XLR cable into a device, and then you have total peace of mind, can still be the way to go. I just like having all the options. I think that's the coolest thing, is having all these options. Does the Ecamm support pedals to change the camera? It does not, as far as I know. Although there might be some super smart person who has rigged that up. PR has the MKH50 with the Rodecaster Duo. Could you share how to do settings? When I run, personally, when I run my 50 through the Duo, I just use the generic condenser setting. And I really like the way that sounds. I don't do anything else to it. But don't be afraid. The thing with the Rodecaster is don't be afraid to like go through. Once you go through, you turn on the condenser setting and then you start going through like the EQ and the compressor and all that stuff. Don't be afraid to just turn the knob and like explore, especially the EQ where you can go to the high, mids, and lows. You can probably dial things in that suit your voice preferences and environment a lot more specifically. Alrighty. I think that's probably, I'm just going to catch up a little bit here and then we're going to probably have to wrap things up. Let's see here. I'm sorry if I missed any questions. I know it's hard to get to all of them in a single stream. Let's see here. Lots of like tech support happening in the chapter here. Tony, this is a good question. Can I use my Rodecaster Pro 2 in live events where I have a live stream and after DJ party? Your English is great. No need to apologize there. So switching back to my wireless mic, yeah, the Duo and the Pro 2, they do have 1/4-inch line outputs, so you can run these into a mixer, a PA system, a speaker, or whatever, and then you have separate output routing for those. So that way you can adjust what you're hearing. Is it pre-fader, post-fader? Are you ignoring the effects? Are you adding the effects? It can be a separate output from the other stuff that you're doing as well. So your stream could have one mix, and this output could have a second mix. And yes, you can definitely do that. Similarly with the DLZs as well. Yes, maybe I wasn't clear, Sven, but the least sensitivity in the back of the mic, there is this little low because it's just sort of an unavoidable thing that kind of like, boop. It's not a shotgun microphone in the back of the microphone, but the sides, position the mic at a 45-degree angle will cut off the most rather than just the back of it. Jeremy bought a Rodecaster Duo. Also, Jeremy, I think you joined a channel member recently, and I appreciate that. Or else someone with the exact same name did, and I appreciate them. I bought a Rodecaster Duo and really do not use it fully. I'm considering the one you talked about a few weeks ago, the something 2. I just need to get inspired in live stream production. Probably I would think you're talking about the Vocaster 2, the Focusrite Vocaster 2, which is just a smaller 2-channel interface. Now, the Duo is pretty small. The Vocaster is probably like 1/3 the size, so it's smaller. It takes up a lot less space than the Duo, but it is just an interface. It has a little basic EQ and stuff in there. It's great, and it's the only one that has a camera output that you can actually bloop, 3.5 millimeter directly into a camera, which is cool. So it's great, and the price is really good. So if you can like sell your Duo, use that to fund the Vocaster 2, and then also save a bit of money, that could be a good move. But if you have the Duo, like you don't have to use any. I pretty much always only have one microphone plugged into my Duo. It's cool. I still love it a lot. You don't have to use every feature all the time to justify something, but sometimes it's nice to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. But the Vocaster 2 is really fantastic. Hey, Audio Hotline, what's up? Actually, for Audio Hotline, I'm going to do something for you as we wrap up. I don't even know if this is going to work. But I have a gift that Audio Hotline gave me when we were at NAB together. And I did the mic comparison, and I used the tiny mic. He's actually the one who gave me the tiny mic, and I want to see, is this going to work? By tiny mic, I mean a tiny microphone. It's exactly what it sounds like. So, pardon me if this does not work at all. Hello, my God, that's a very sensitive microphone. Okay, we're going to do auto gain. So a very cool thing about the DLZ creator is I can do auto gain settings. I'm going to go to channel 2, and I'm going to go to setup of channel 2, and I'm going to do set the gain automatically. So this is me talking into the microphone, and it's going to listen to me, and it's going to set the gain, and hopefully we gain some higher audio quality from there. I did not realize this would be such an insanely sensitive microphone. Now, if I switch back over here. Hey, there we go. Yeah, tiny mic. All right. This is what I'll be on for the rest of the show. So thank you very much. Thanks for joining the chat audio hotline. Couldn't have done this without you. Let's see here. I know there are a lot of questions. Unfortunately, we just don't have time for everything today. I think we got through a lot of them, though. Go Tell Jesus Save says, would be nice to see top audio companies and top video companies collab on equipment. That would be cool, right? Like someone who has expert. Let's look, Blackmagic and Rode are both in Australia. What else? It's them and like 5 kangaroos, right? I'm kidding. But, you know, hey, let's do the like Rode X Blackmagic collab. When can we see you play guitar? Well, whenever. I want to do a stream using the YOLO box coming up, and I want to do a stream using the Gigcaster. Whenever the Gigcaster comes up, it's so hard to say that for me. Definitely be a musical thing. Sounds great. People pay a lot for distortion plugins. It's true. I do not have a PC. I only have Macs. I have not owned a PC since my Dell. I had a Dell Inspiron laptop in like 2005. I think was the last time. Look at this. Badges for the cross. It has a Vocaster and wants to get the Duo. Someone else in chat, Duo wants a Vocaster. There we go. Here's an off-topic question we can wrap up here. No related to audio video, but willing to ask, do care about your opinion. How can I grow my YouTube channel? I'm doing charitable live streams. Wow. I wish I had chosen a question I could actually answer because I don't know the answer to that. I'm lucky that my channel has grown and has seen like levels of success over the years and been relatively moderate and stable. But as far as like a replicable blueprint for that, the thing I will say, at least that I believe, so I don't know, you know, like don't necessarily change your whole business structure to this, is I still really think that the most important thing about YouTube is you, putting the you in YouTube, right? That's the whole point. And it's very easy to see niches grow, trends happen, and everything kind of starts to look and sound the same. And that is very boring. Even if it's good, even if things look and sound great, when it's all the same, it's kind of boring. It's fun to see different people. It's fun to feel like you get to spend time with different people. At least I think so. This is my experience as a viewer. And you know I'm serious, and you should take my advice because I have this tiny microphone. As a viewer, feeling like you can, you know, you don't connect with everyone. I guess I was talking about being a teacher earlier. An example I like to use is if you go to like a typical high school, there might be 4 or 5 10th grade English teachers, right? They all have the same textbook, the same curriculum, same school. But there are students who would say like, I really love this teacher, really dislike that teacher, even though they're all teaching the same thing. So it's not necessarily even about the topic. It's about the person sharing the topic, explaining the topic. You're doing live streams. There's so many opportunities to connect with an audience through a live stream. It takes a lot of time, though, is also the thing. So my advice would be put yourself, or you know, if you're part of a group that's doing like a project together, put like your personality, your group's personality, your purpose into the things that you're making, because that's what's going to help people connect with it. Like, yeah, make it look good, make it sound good. If you have to focus on one or the other, focus on sound first and video second. Those are very important things, but make it feel different. Make it feel like you, the thing that nobody else could make. You know, like even though if somebody else took the same topic and tried to do a stream on it, they wouldn't do the stream that you're making. And try to really, you know, focus on that and figure that out and just be patient. Be very grateful for the people who give you their time always. You know, like I'm very grateful for everyone who's going to show up on a random Wednesday stream, but especially like when you're just starting out and nobody's watching, it feels like, and someone leaves a comment, someone watches a live stream, like really, like, you know, thank them, like appreciate. That's a whole person giving you some time, which is very cool. And I know personally, like I started my channel in 2017, 7 years ago this month, actually. YouTube's very different than it was 7 years ago. And so the thing to kind of like, the thing I do remember is by the time I made my first like 50 videos and had done a couple live streams, it had been, I think, 50 videos. It probably took me about 6 months because I did a lot. I did like a lot of videos. I had 30 videos in 30 days at one point. So by the time I did my first 50 videos, which is a lot of videos, I think if I remember right, I had 36 subscribers. So I had way more videos on my channel than subscribers on the channel. And that's just kind of how it is. It took, what did it take? It took 6 months. By the end of that first year, 2017 is when I hit 100 subscribers, which felt freaking impossible to get to 100. And then between December 2017 and June of 2018, I hit 1,000 in June. So boom, and that was crazy. And then June 2019 was 5,000. January 2020 was 10,000. Then it got a little blurry because this pandemic thing happened. I know I left my teaching job in March of 2021 when the channel was about 65,000. And then it hit 100,000 2 years ago and is getting close to 150,000. So, and I don't even know, people always talk about subscriber numbers not even mattering anymore the way YouTube works. So that point being, make the videos only you can make the streams only you can make, be someone that an audience can actually connect with and be interested in, which means some people will not connect with you and not be interested in it. I wish I could show you. So many times I will have 2 comments on the exact same video. Like I check YouTube Studio and the 2 most recent comments are on the same video. And one of them will be something like, the stupid jokes are such a waste of time. Like I can't unsubscribe fast enough or whatever. The next one is subscribe for the puns. Thanks for making fun videos. And I'm like, you guys watch the same video. Like it had exactly opposite reactions. So you cannot please everybody. But if you try to please everybody, you're not going to please anybody because it's going to be boring and uninteresting. So you really got to like, what do you like? What's unique about you? What's something that you won't get tired of? Like an approach you can take that's going to make you want to keep doing this long enough for people to actually have the time to find you, connect with you, and grow with you. And when you can connect with your audience and grow with them, the really cool part is it then feels like it's almost like a shared victory. They're not watching your channel grow. They're part of a channel that's growing. And that's a really special thing. So I don't know if that makes sense. That's my YouTube advice. I'm not a YouTube coach, so take that for what it's worth. Hope that helps. Grumpus, I'm using the Shark Slider Nano from iFootage to just going on a loop over there on the camera. Do you still find time to play music? Yes, I do. The bass has been my main thing. I try to play 30 to 45 minutes a day. There's a YouTube channel called Bass Buzz, which is great. Josh from that channel has a course called Beginner to Badass, which is great. I took it 2 years ago, finished the whole thing. I'm retaking it now because I want to be more badass in my playing. And it's the first time anyone's ever explained music theory to me in a way that makes sense and that I feel like I actually understand how it works. So yes, lots of time, super fun. Bass is kind of taken over for the past couple years though. All right. See, I'm glad you guys are liking the slider thing because it's one of those things. It's like the puns. Some people love it, some people hate it. When I have 2 cameras in my videos, some people love it, some people hate it. And you gotta do what works for you. So what works for me right now is eating lunch and taking a break. So I really appreciate everybody being here, putting up with technical issues and dropped frame rates at times and whatnot. These streams are super fun. Check out tomorrow's video. It's going to pop up and it's going to be called How to Make Mic'd Up Sports Videos. And even if you're not a sports person, even if you don't want to make a mic'd up video, it's a really fun video. It's at least entertaining, if nothing else. And there are cool tips and techniques in there that you can apply to lots of other things. Like I'm talking about hockey specifically in the video. It can apply to lots of other sports, but also lots of other applications as well. So talks a lot about wireless versus separate recording and all that kind of stuff. GoPro versus not stationary camera. It's a really fun video. I'm super excited about it, and I hope you like it too. So with that being said, hope everybody has a great, happy, healthy, fun rest of your day. And I will see y'all next time. There is going to be a minute closing screen if people in the chat want to say goodbye. And Jen, did you miss the hockey chat? It never stops with me at this point, and this is between Calder Cup and Stanley Cup. This is a very exciting week. So, yeah. We're going to see. Anyway, hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and I will see y'all next time.